Hi, friends. I'm Rand Fishkin, co-founder and CEO of SparkToro, and today we are chatting about the end of marketing attribution. Yes, it is the end, friends. I know. Google and Facebook are going to convince you that no, you can still do marketing attribution as long as you pay us money. Yeah, I'm pretty skeptical. All right, let's let's kick off because we got a lot to get through. So, my 2 cents generally when it comes to the marketing world is that marketers are not entrepreneurs. We are not investors. Our job isn't to predict the future. It's to serve our customers and our audience in the places where they already pay attention. And that means we don't need to do a whole lot of what's going to happen in the future and how is Google going to use AI and should I be making changes now to account for that? Probably not. Should probably wait and see. That's how I think marketing does its best work. But if we know something is coming, if we know what the future looks like because it's already been planned and telegraphed, then it's foolish not to prepare. So, well, wait, I hear you say, Rand, what's coming next? Okay, I got you. Let me start with a move that Apple made last year, 2022. So here on the left side of the screen, what we've got is when Apple wants to track you, right? And this is essentially when Apple says like, hey, would you like personalized ads? And you say, turn on personalized ads. Notice that how well it's highlighted versus when Facebook or Pal About or Etsy or any other app on Apple wants to track your data, right? Track your usage of it, issue cookies, all that kind of thing. You are given the prompt to not track. This is a sort of dark pattern design. This change is crushing the ad targeting that Facebook and Instagram especially, but Snapchat, Twitter, everybody. YouTube's set to lose $2.2 billion because of this one change on Apple's devices. But Meta will be losing $12.8 billion by analysts' estimate on that little change. That's some fancy dark pattern design that Apple's done there. And they're doing it because Apple would like to become a major player in the advertising space. They recognize how great the ad business is, right? It's very, very low cost, high ROI. They see Google and Facebook doing it and Amazon. And they're like, hey, I want some of that sweet, sweet ad money. Chrome next year is finally, after many years of promising this, phasing out third-party cookies. And this will dramatically overhaul how all web advertising works. It will almost certainly mean that folks are moving away from, well, all ad platforms will have to move away from third-party cookies because Chrome is the only big browser left that does it. Safari already got rid of them. Firefox got rid of them. The other browsers are just too small to make a difference in terms of market share. This is from StatCounter, right? And yeah, these two browsers, that's it. Third-party cookie technology dead. The EU made a big change, right, where Google Analytics and software like it is illegal to operate if you're in the EU. And that's not all, of course, right? Google Analytics with GA4 over Universal is making a big change that means that many of the types of tracking that was available even inside GA is fading as well. In addition to this, there is a movement by the EU, but also being considered by Canada and several countries in Asia right now to make behavioral targeting illegal entirely, which is essentially the whole model that Facebook's ad platform and big parts of Google's ad platform and Amazon's are built on, right? The idea that things you do on one website can be tracked across the web and then used to serve you ads in other places. So what are these ad tech vendors doing? What are they going to do? They've actually already announced it. Like we know what is happening. What's happening essentially is that Google, Facebook, Meta, right, Instagram, Twitter, Apple, Amazon, all of these companies are going to use cohorts of groups of behavior. So essentially, rather than, if you imagine sort of today, right, you go and visit a hiking boot that you're interested in on Zappos website or Amazon's website. And then, that hiking boot follows you around the internet like a lost puppy dog. You see the ad for it everywhere. And that's because your machine, your device has been cookied, potentially even your IP address or email address or something, right, has been cookied to show you that ad. That hyper personalization where only you get that particular ad is changing in favor of what these big ad tech vendors are calling cohorts or federated lists. And the idea in the federated list system is here is a group of people who have behavior similar to yours, and all of the people in that group are going to get the same types of targeting and advertising and marketing. Technically, they claim that this is depersonalized, right? Because they can't identify any one human being. It's not you, it's you're in this group. Now, this change will probably mean that there is a lot less personalized, less directly trackable attribution in the ad market. What I don't believe will happen is that Meta and Google and Apple and Amazon will tell you, the advertiser, that it's less trackable. They're going to continue to claim lots of trackability, lots of attribution, but what's really happening behind the scenes is a far less personalized, less one-to-one type of relationship in all attribution. Okay, I spent a bunch of time on web advertising. Let me move on to beyond the ad world, because if I'm claiming that it's the end of attribution or the end of perfect or high quality attribution, advertising is not the only place marketing happens, right? Well, hopefully not. If you're putting all your dollars in the ad bucket, that could be a problem. So, okay, let's see what what do we actually have here. Here's time spent with media. This is from an excellent We Are Social and Hootsuite sort of combined for this annual study. They did a great one for 2022. I think the 2023 one is coming out soon. And essentially, they're looking at where do people spend time. And yeah, Google owns the search market, but search is not the only place that internet activity happens. It's not 2013, right, where search was like the only channel that you could invest in. And in the search market, 2/3 of Google searches are ending without a click, right? And in search, only paid search ads get attribution. So we're getting more and more zero-click searches, meaning you go to Google, you search for something, and Google gives you the answer right in their results. With generative AI, it's predicted that this will rise even more, but Google's been doing these instant answers for a long time and sort of training us to not have to click on any listings in there. And the direct attribution that comes from paid search, right, is probably is much, much smaller than that comes from organic, right? Look here, paid 1.59%, organic 33%. So organic is still way, way bigger than paid, which is no surprise, right? Most of the listings that we all click on are the organic ones. Google's been trying to get us to click on more and more paid ones pretty successfully, right? They've grown that share of the pie 2-3x over the last 5 years. But still, essentially what we're showing here is the percent of clicks for these, right, the things that are marked with an ad are rising, and you get keyword data. Google will tell you what the searcher searched for when they clicked on your ad, exactly the word and phrase. The organic section, the percent of clicks is declining, has been for 10 years now. And keyword data is intentionally hidden, right? Google claims it's for privacy reasons, but obviously if they were hiding it for privacy reasons, they'd hide it in the paid results too, wouldn't they? And this, right, these answers where you're like, oh yeah, the best CRM for real estate. Oh yeah, I could just go to HubSpot or Pipedrive or LionDesk. Like I don't need to actually click on any of these results. Google's crawling and extracting it from Forbes and all these other places and just presenting me with those results. Great. Problem solved. No need to click. That's rising. Search definitely has volume, but social is dominating the time that we spend online, as it has been for a number of years now. You can see that people are using more and more social networks on average. I actually think the death of Twitter is going to only contribute to this. I find myself every day now on Threads and Mastodon and LinkedIn and a little bit on Twitter or whatever Elon's calling it now. And that seems to be the way. That fragmentation can be a good thing, right? There's lots more places to reach the niche audience that you need to, but also means you got to go to more places. And there's lots of overlap between these different audiences. So, if you want to reach whatever TikTok users, guess what? 80% of them also use YouTube. 73% of them also use WhatsApp in some form or fashion. 83% use Instagram. Every single one of these networks, though, has a new motto, new over the last 5 years, which is don't let people leave. You can see lots of experiments and results. I've done some myself. TikTok has started to hide even the link in bio, so you can't get those anymore. And if you share content on any of these platforms that do allow a link, Twitter open sourced their algorithm, open sourced. I mean, Elon, sort of publicly put it out there. And you can see there's a penalty for including a link in your tweet, right? So they will show you fewer of those. Apparently, they've made another update to show even less links so that you don't leave Twitter. Threads is the same, LinkedIn's the same, Facebook's the same, Reddit's the same. And so when I post, I'm using, I think, an example from Facebook here, right? With a link versus no link, it's about 10x. Right? I get seen 10 times more. My post gets 10 times more impressions, engagement. Facebook is willing to show that post to more people than they are the one with the link. So all these platforms prioritizing native content means that what? It means that if somebody goes to, let's say you're posting great stuff on Instagram in the e-commerce niche, or you're posting great stuff on LinkedIn in the B2B niche, someone will see your content, but they won't go to your website. You will not be able to track that LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok or Reddit or Facebook was the root of how you got that traffic. What instead will happen is that person will learn about you. They might even follow you on that social channel. They might see you a bunch of times. And then sometime in the future, they will go to your website, maybe via Google search, maybe on a branded term that you're bidding for, and that will make paid search look like an even better channel. Or maybe they'll click on the LinkedIn ad because that's the only one that LinkedIn allows with a link to do really well. What do you know? Hey, it all serves the network. Even if you were to say, no, Rand, my LinkedIn game is so strong, my Instagram game is so strong, I can get people to click that link in bio. Well, friends, guess what? We did some research at SparkToro and the numbers don't add up. Yeah, that's right. What's happening is what's historically been called dark social is taking over all of these platforms. It's estimated at between 30 and 80%. We actually did some research on SparkToro. You can check out the post if you want, showing all of the networks where dark social is the default. For example, TikTok will hide all refer strings. You will never see TikTok in your refers unless you buy ads, because even the links in TikTok's bio, the refer string is hidden, so it'll look like direct or type in traffic in your analytics. The content networks, right? Same story. YouTube. I think TikTok is a reasonable content network. They're nearly linkless, but they're hugely influential. YouTube drives a ton of consumer behavior, but it can't be attributed. All right, so quick review here, right? Like we've talked about a bunch of how these big tech platforms that dominate our time online are doing things. And, in browsers, they use privacy as a cover for moat building, right? I think it's not nefarious. It's just capitalist, right? They're just trying to extract the most possible revenue growth that they can get. And one of those ways is to drive all of us to spend money on their ad platforms instead of getting value out of their organic channels for free. Ad platforms saw the loss of persistent cookies and third-party cookies, and so they do these view-through conversions and behavioral cohorts to try and make up for it. Google Search, who wants to show Wall Street more growth, shows more ads, more instant answers, and less organic. Social networks, they want to increase time and attention on their sites, so they don't let anyone click out. Content networks, they're losing behavioral data from the rest of the web, so they use the content consumption patterns on those entertainment and content networks to power the ads that you see. None of this is incredibly surprising, but it is all it's all coming together at the same time. And this means for marketers, organic attribution, my friends, I'll talk more about what I mean by attribution versus measurement in a second, but organic attribution is gone. It is gone for good. If you think you can attribute successfully all the organic channels that contribute to a conversion, you're living in a mythological, past time. It's just not possible anymore. Many of the digital ads are going to move from direct attribution, right, which is this person clicked this ad or saw this ad and then took this action on your site, to implied correlation, meaning this device saw this ad, was part of a group who saw this ad, and later this many people from that group took these actions on your site. That's different, right? That's different from person A. That's person A, saw the ad, clicked the ad, converted. And number 3, smart marketers inside smart organizations are going to move toward measurement over attribution. Everyone else is just going to pay a tax to the major ad providers for the privilege of this implied attribution that the ad providers will continue to offer. Not great, not ideal, but this is the way it is. All right. Since I've spent so much time on this, let me talk a sec about what I mean when I say measurement versus attribution. So attribution is, I see this ad while scrolling Reddit. It's an ad for Citizens of One and for clay, right? So I check it out and I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Citizens of One invited you to join clay.com, find data from anywhere. This is kind of interesting to me, right? As a B2B entrepreneur, I might want this kind of data. And so if I'm clay.com, what I can see in my analytics is exactly how many people clicked on the Reddit ad and how many people came to my site, how many people converted once they came from Reddit. That's attribution. And Reddit wants to make sure that this is still possible, right? This is a paid service. So they definitely want that. Measurement is different. Measurement is something like, you run this ad, HBO Max, which I think changed their name to just Max. It's odd. I always associate that with Cinemax. So they run this ad on Reddit for The Last of Us. They get stats, like broad stats about how many people saw it and clicked on it. So views on hovers, clicks, how many people started the trailer or watched the trailer. But they have no idea, and there's no way to get this data. They have no idea how many of those people who saw that ad later became HBO Max subscribers, or how many people who already were HBO Max subscribers kept their subscription because of this. The only thing they can really measure is relative lift, right? Like, how did it do compared to the Mythic Quest ad we ran, or the Distant Lands, or the Harley Quinn, or the Flight Attendant? These are other shows on HBO Max. For years, digital marketers, myself included, I am super guilty of this, I apologize, have been referring to these pejoratively as vanity metrics. And we gotta stop that, because these are the metrics. This is how you measure lift. Let's go back in time. Let's go back to the 20th century, when there was no digital attribution, and yet somehow it was marketing's golden age, and people spent fortunes marketing and building incredible brands and companies, obviously with marketing help. So it's 1960, right? And Coca-Cola is spending millions on outdoor advertising. Look how expensive that billboard is. Like the build out alone. And on Michigan Avenue in Chicago, how did they decide that they were going to run that message in that location, and whether they were going to run more like it? Well, they would look at things like the audience, right? What are the demographics of people who drive down Michigan Avenue or walk down Michigan Avenue? What's the potential reach? How many people? What's the context and relevance? Is Michigan Avenue in Chicago something Coca-Cola wanted to be associated with? What are the market comps? Could we run a billboard on, Fifth Avenue in New York, or on Pike Street in Seattle? And, we look at lift-based measurement. It's not attribution. We can't say, oh, that driver who saw that ad when they were driving, they later went into a convenience store and bought, a 12-pack of Coke. Nope. That's not it. They look at same store sales month over month. And they're like, hey, the month after we put up the billboard, we saw a 7% lift in same store sales within a 20-mile radius of Michigan Avenue. That's how much revenue we can expect. So the ROI is X. So let's run that same billboard in these 12 cities and measure it against these 12 cities where we don't run it. And if we see the same lift, we're going to roll it out nationwide. It's lift-based measurement, right? which is what we marketers, digital marketers, call vanity metrics, which is kind of insane, right? So let's go back to Clay, right? Clay, the folks who were selling data, right, via that ad I saw on Reddit, they can do similar things in the digital marketing universe. They can look at, oh, okay, people who follow us, who follow Clay on our social accounts, they engage with, listen to, subscribe to, get the newsletter for these podcasts. I love the name. Why aren't you a doctor yet? I think it's actually an Indian podcast, Indian American podcast, but as a Jewish American person, I'm like, oh my God, my grandmother was so disappointed I became an entrepreneur. So yeah, let's go get on these podcasts because this is the relevant audience. This is the Coca-Cola advertising on Michigan Avenue of the podcast world. The problem fundamentally is that marketers are so used to having attribution that it's tough to sell the measurement game. It's tough to convince our bosses, our teams, our clients, if we're agencies, to do this, right? So, hey, boss, we saw that 37% of our target audience engages with this podcast. Is it cool if I go pitch them some co-marketing ideas to get on that podcast? Have you ever tried these pitches? So many folks are like, what? How will we prove that the people who listen to the podcast converted to, marketing qualified leads or conversions or whatever it is? No, get out of here. Now try this. Hey, boss, the model says, Google Analytics 4 says if we put another $5 million into Google branded search ads, we will get $5.01 million in sales. What should I do? Put it on the company card, baby. Yeah, that's just how it is, right? Because we're lost in this world of attribution, we can't see the measurement forest for the trees. But if you just spend more on ads, there's a huge problem, in my opinion, right? Which is all of these big, very smart, very expensive paying, for their marketing teams and agencies, companies, story after story after story after story, and there's 1,000 more I'm not showing you, cut their digital ad spend and saw lift or no change, right? Chase had ads on 400,000 sites, then 5,000, and they got the same results. P&G cut $200 million in digital ad spend and increased reach and sales. Uber, right? Airbnb, my favorite example. When the pandemic showed up, right? Airbnb was like, gosh, we took marketing down to zero, meaning paid search marketing. They continue to do PR and content and all those kinds of investments. And we still have 95% of the same traffic as we had before. We're not going to forget that lesson. I think that's pretty smart. And their financials showed exactly that. So here, I'm going to tell you a story. You might have heard this story before, but I love it. So I'm going to go through it. It's the parable of the pizzeria. So this is Pizzeria Sevilla, which is in Milan, in Italy, right? And the pizzeria owner is like, gosh, I want to get more business. So she hires 3 like neighborhood scamps from Milan. She's like, hey, okay, you 3 kids, you're going to go deliver these flyers, right? Pass them out all over town. They contain a coupon. The coupon lets you, buy a pizza, get a pizza free, or get 20% off your pizza, whatever it is. There's one that's green, one that's red, one that's white. The flag of Italy, right? And she passes these out. And after a month, she's like, wow, almost all my new customers, like 80, 85, 90% of my new customers are coming in with the green coupon. That kid is incredible. So she fires the other 2 and she says, hey, kid, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. And 6 months later, she has a review with her accountant. And the accountant says, well, yeah, you know what? Sales are up 15%, but I have bad news. Because of the discount, we're actually at just about the same or even losing a little bit of revenue because everybody's using the coupon. And they're like, well, how could that be? So what does she do? She wants to figure out what this kid's up to. So she puts on her disguise. She goes out of the pizzeria. She follows the kid. And what does she see? Well, the kid with the green flyers, he walks out of the pizzeria. He ducks into an alleyway around the corner, and then he just watches. And anybody he sees that looks like they're going to the pizzeria, he jumps out and hands them the flyer with the coupon. Hey, because this kid, right? This kid is real smart. He says, Why should I work hard to make more sales when I could just get credit for sales that were already going to happen? And that's Google and Facebook's motto. They're just taking credit because they're very good at behavior on the internet. They're taking credit for sales that were already going to happen. Now, look, all of this untrackable, unattributable marketing, it can be measured, right? You can look at things in awareness like impressions. You can look at things in interest like search volume. Branded search volume in particular is a great one for this. You can look at traffic lift. You can look at familiarity lift and measuring conversion rate lift. But it's lift-based measurement, not attribution. We did this for our company, for SparkToro, the company I run. And we can see that a ton of our traffic is from direct. Most of our search traffic is branded terms. And so I built a dashboard that sort of measures brand interest metrics, social engagement metrics, website traffic metrics, right? Our subscribed audience, our conversions, and then month over month tracks it out. And this is exhausting to build. It's a lot of work. And this isn't even as detailed as you could reasonably get. I bet you're going to hate this part. We reject not only attribution, but most measurement as well. I do not try to do this. I don't maintain this dashboard on an ongoing basis. I did it as an exercise to prove that it's possible and that you can measure it. But we don't do it because I believe that properly testing and measuring is so inefficient. It's such a waste of time and energy, especially for a small company like ours, right? We're like 3 people, maybe $1.5 million in revenue per year. And why? Well, why bother? Like we can make smart marketing investments based on sort of our intuition and our market knowledge. What we do is this. We have sort of our sources of influence that we know reach our audience, right? Because we do audience research and we find those sources. We provide value that earns their attention. We hopefully we wow that audience and bring them back to our site, right? We have our funnel basically is, from the homepage, you can sign up for a free version of SparkToro, which a lot of people do every day. I think maybe 250 people, right, every day sign up for a free version of SparkToro. And then some of those become paid customers, and many of them sign up for our email list to get our email newsletter. So their audiences, the source of influence's audiences, becomes our audience. And this flywheel works really well. It's very hard to get turning right at the start, but after a few revolutions, it gets easier and easier and easier, right? When you think about even me speaking today at Demand, I'm giving this talk, right? And obviously, I hope some marketers, right, might come to SparkToro and check us out. Will I be able to attribute anyone who heard this talk, who then went to SparkToro and signed up for an account? Heck no, impossible. I can measure lift. I can be like, hey, I did 3 events in the last month and we saw a lift of 12%. Do I know exactly which one? Do I know exactly, I should have put more energy into this one, or I shouldn't have spoken at that one? No, I won't know that. But you know what? I don't care. I found sources that I believe reach my audience. I am going to invest in the serendipity of this practice over and over, knowing that some of my efforts might be wasted, because I'd rather do that than spend, $100,000 a month on Google ads to drive attribution for people who already, most of them, were already going to find and buy SparkToro. All right, so my goal, right? I want some source to amplify our brand. So I go find ways that could work, right? What could I do that would earn me more coverage? Newsworthy things that they would cover, right? That our company could do. I could be a guest on their podcast or be one of their webinar speakers. I could sponsor their email newsletter. I could publish research that they'd write about, or run a joint survey with them, or get quoted in one of their articles. Like any of these things. I am not using paid media. I'm not even using SEO, even though my last company, Moz, obviously did tons of SEO. Instead, I am getting featured on podcasts and interviewed on popular news channels and written about in email newsletters and blogs. And this form of organic marketing is incredibly high ROI. It's not a huge effort, right? I have lots of other things I do as part of my job, and this is 25%, 30% of my days. I think in 2023, you have a few options as a marketer, right? Your options are, number one, You keep throwing money at big tech, and those ad providers will be happy to charge you lots and lots of money for the privilege of the implied, mostly implied attribution. And in a lot of cases, they're taking credit for sales that already would have happened. Number two, you can build that hard to measure dashboard. I linked to it in the presentation. You can search for hard to measure dashboard on SparkToro and find it, right? You can build one of those. I open sourced it. It's possible. Plenty of marketers, a lot of agencies will have to do something like that if they want clients or teams or CMOs to buy into that. And number three, you could do what we're doing, which is essentially to measure the big stuff. We measure traffic, we look at conversions, we look at revenue, we ignore almost everything else, right? And we're willing to invest in creative, hard to measure channels and tactics. And if our customers are there, that's what we care about. Most companies are going to do this, which is why it is not a competitive advantage. Ads are not a competitive advantage. That is the core of my presentation. That's what I'm saying. I am urging you to try to measure the big stuff, or to at least invest in some of this hard to measure stuff. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Take care.